Senator Coyle, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome back to the Senate of Canada, Minister Freeland. It's great to see you. I'm going to continue a little bit on that line. Minister, in today's context of high inflation, I think everybody in this room understands that Bill C-30, and some of us understand that Bill C-31, are part of the government's response to the current affordability crisis, and you have my support. You've also made reference, and I think it's really important to understand this in the context. I know this is a one-time thing. It's this current inflationary environment. That's why we have these. But you've also mentioned other already announced, very important government supports, and you've described some of them in some detail for various population groups. Minister, as you know, many Canadians, in fact, for I think many of us, a surprising and concerning number, the number that we're expecting to be benefiting from this, 11 million Canadians, are economically vulnerable. That's very concerning and surprising. Could you, and I know you haven't yet, but could you describe for us any further elements of the government's plan to help, not ones you've mentioned already or have already been announced, to help those economically vulnerable Canadians today, in the medium term or in the longer term, to really get at that vulnerability that we're seeing? It's acute, and we're seeing it because of this inflationary environment, but it's there with the environment or not.
Madame la Ministre.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Senator Coyle. I am not here to make news or announce any new programs. We think about them a lot, but I'm not here to announce those, so I'm not going to do that. What I will say is I will take a minute. I'll take the opportunity your question provides to just mention the housing benefit and dental care. The housing benefit is a one-off payment for specifically targeted at people who are renting. Many people who rent are among the most vulnerable, and rents have been going up. So I do hope that senators will look at that with understanding as being part of the same effort. And I want to make a bit of a pitch also for dental care for kids under 12. I don't know about you, but again, I spent the summer traveling a lot across the country and talking to a lot of people in kind of smaller environments. And I found there was really strong support across the country in lots of different groups and communities for this idea. And I feel that once it was put on the table, to actually say, are you really against the idea that kids under 12 should be able to go to the dentist regardless of how much money their parents pay? It's sort of hard to argue that side of it. So I hope we will provide that support. And it speaks, Senator, to your point that we're sort of dealing with two things. We're dealing with an immediate affordability challenge, and we're talking today about a targeted measure to support people through that. But I do agree with you that there are lots of Canadians who have challenges all the time. And I think that it's the right thing for us to try to support them. The final thing I will say is, for very many Canadians, the most important support is a good, well-paying job. And I think about that a lot as well. A big focus for me during COVID was to not allow our economy to be scarred and not allow the people who lost their jobs right away to become permanently unemployed. I think that is a tragedy and a blight for people and their families. And I do think part of the job of the government, of the House of Commons, of the Senate, is for us to be thinking as well about ensuring that we're working to build a Canadian economy where there are lots of good, dignified, good-paying, steady jobs for everyone who wants one, and that people have the training they need to do those jobs.
Senator Coyle, you have 1 minute.
Okay, I'll go quickly because you used some of my time, but I agree with you on the jobs. I think everybody here would agree on that. We know, Minister, that people in other countries, particularly those in the global south, are acutely impacted by the same factors affecting affordability here. And they are experiencing the same, well, even more acute vulnerabilities. Could you tell us if the Government of Canada is providing additional development assistance, for example, to any of our global partners in response to this global crisis that we're talking about? Canada, but it's being experienced in very serious ways elsewhere.
So I'll say quickly, yes, you're right. We are supporting our partners in the global south. And I will say one way to support our partners, and direct support is important. A lot of work is being done on food security. My colleague, Minister Sajjan, is very engaged in that. And next week, I'll be at the IMF World Bank meetings where I know that's going to be high on the agenda. I will also say, a huge part of the problem with food security and high energy prices is Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine, and helping the Ukrainians win and win quickly and end the war is not only going to save a lot of suffering in Ukraine, but it's going to help the whole world.